Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. This podcast is uniquely trained and highly motivated, a specialist without equal, and immune to any countermeasures. But this podcast is also an agency of chaos. Welcome to Reviews Without Remorse. I am Joe, and I can neither confirm nor deny details of any operation without the Secretary's approval. And my partner is Dave, who just can't get the door open in time.
Considering the technical issues I just had, that was apt.
This is episode number 75, and it's a big one. In this episode, James Gunn, director of both Guardians of the Galaxy films, can't escape his past tweets, and Disney doesn't like it. Dave and I will discuss his unceremonious firing. Star Wars: The Clone Wars is back, and David will attempt to explain to me why this is good news. San Diego Comic-Con 2018 is in full swing, and the assault of trailers is underway. In this episode, we will discuss Shazam, Aquaman, and Glass. And finally, this podcast will be forced to answer for every wanton act of mayhem we are responsible for. Reviews Without Remorse does the impossible, and we'll review Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. What's up, my brother?
Man, oh man, oh man. Are we really going to fit all this? Who knows?
We will do what we can. There's also next week, but let's see what we can do.
They call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy.
What a bunch of a-holes.
So, James Gunn, the director of both Guardians of the Galaxy films, fired by Disney because of his past tweets. Wow, this is an interesting one, and you know what? I am very torn on how to feel about it. But Dave, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, my friend.
The first thing you have to know about this particular issue is that he already apologized for this issue back in 2012 when he got hired to do Guardians of the Galaxy. This isn't a new issue. This was known, he was vetted, it was released, he apologized, and he hasn't tweeted anything quite as inflammatory as he did since then. Now, James Gunn is a child of the Trauma Filmmaking School, and if you work in the Trauma Filmmaking School, you get kind of a bit of a, shall we say, twisted sense of humor. I understand why Disney did this. I feel kind of like they overreacted a bit because basically they're reacting to something that he already got a reaction to and like said, you know, no, sorry, I was an ass and, you know, and made two Guardians of the Galaxy movies. That aside, the reaction has been interesting to say the least. He has a tremendous amount of support, which I wasn't expecting. 9 times out of 10, somebody says something bad, people kind of like walk away from the dudes or the ladies. But this is one of those cases where just like people are coming out of the woodworks like supporting him. Like Michael Roker has left Twitter, Dave Bautista is supporting him, Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Palm Clementif, I'm sorry if I'm killing your name. Of course, his brother is on him. Frickin' Selma Blair is behind him. And, I mean, as far as online petitions go, it's normal. I'm not one for online petitions. I think they're bupkis. I don't think they really do anything. But his online petition to rehire him has 250,000 signatures. I don't know what to make of this personally. Was his stuff in bad taste? Sure. Yeah, it was in bad taste. Is it, you know, Disney to fire somebody who's, you know, done a joke in bad taste? Sure. I guess that is the case. I kind of just feel like it's a bit of an overreaction to something that he already nipped in the bud back in 2012. But whatever. There's not much we can do about it. It's sad because he is the whole reason why Guardians of the Galaxy has been working. So he supposedly has the script finished for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. A part of me likes to hope, but there's no way they'll hire him back.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. No, he is not coming back, and yeah, because I mean, Disney hammered the nails into that coffin hard. Yeah, listen, it's kind of funny. I am very torn on the whole thing. On one hand, yes, we live in a world where no one has a sense of humor anymore. And again, if people are going to get outraged at the tiniest little things from certain people, well, then I guess fair is fair. And then, I mean, and if it was funny, because it took me a while to find anybody who was, I was scouring to find out what these actual tweets were. I heard a lot of coverage on it. I'm like, okay, but what were the actual tweets? What is so bad? Well, I finally got to one that literally went through a whole bunch of old tweets. And, I mean, they are pretty foul. I mean, they are as foul can be. And again, like you said, it falls under a very certain sense of humor. Way on the outskirts of what Disney's going to put up with. I mean, Disney will not let their people smoke in public. I mean, they are very tight with how they want their franchise to appear. Having said that, you'd think Disney would have vetted him way before hiring him. I mean, these are not things you can't find. And if Disney is going to be that, hyper controlling about what people say and do, well, then have people look into his background, see if anything is going to. I mean, Disney should more or less treat their people the way political parties should treat potential candidates. Frankly, find out the skeletons before you put them up front. And and I'll be brutally honest, on a personal level, you know what? From what I understand, a lot of this had to do with the fact that James Gunn was very vocal when Roseanne Barr had comments, and he couldn't wait to get her fired. And he was very outspoken about how she should be fired from her new show. Having said that, well, James Gunn, I guess fair is fair. So if somebody decides to say, well, look at what this guy's been saying, and Disney, are you okay with that? I don't think either of them are right, frankly. Again, I really don't know what to say about it, because Disney, again, they're allowed to hire people that they're comfortable with. They're allowed, I suppose, to tell their people, look, you can't do this, you can't say this, you have to, keep the image, the wholesome image going. And if you don't, and clearly these tweets, I mean, once they were out, what are you going to do? You can't put that genie back in the bottle again. I think James Gunn got kind of a raw deal, because I think you should be entitled to your sense of humor, frankly, and not your career shouldn't hinge on it. But again, Disney's free to do what they want to do. So I really don't know where to fall on it, but I do feel bad for him.
I agree to an extent. The difference is like, if this was something he had said, say, within the past week, I would absolutely be like, no, you know what? Screw that guy. He's a jerk. To hell with him. But this is stuff from like almost 10 years ago, and stuff that he already acknowledged and apologized for like 6 years ago. So I agree that people with like no sense of humor need to just fuck off. Just because you don't laugh at a joke is not a reason to suddenly want the head of the person that told the joke.
All right, Rex. What's so important that you brought us all the way back here?
Hello, Master. It's been a while.
This is the second iteration of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. There was Star Wars Clone Wars, which was beautifully animated and told by the amazing animator of Samurai Jack, Gendy Taranaski.
Very cool
series. I apologize.
Series.
Yes, a very, very cool series. One of my favorite things that came out of the prequel era. But for whatever reason, it was decided that they're going to do a whole TV series, but they're going to do something different. Now, enter a man by the name of Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni is the spearhead for pretty much any of the animated Star Wars things that have gone on since. And he was met with a lot of resistance, and fans were kind of blah, blah, blah. Who cares about the Clone Wars? And then something happened. It worked. He made it work. He told a story. He built a relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan that the movies never could get across. He actually made you feel like Anakin and Padme actually had a decent working relationship. Introduced a character that at first people were like, who's this Ahsoka character? She's so annoying. That became so beloved that when her character was thought to be killed off in Star Wars Rebels, there were like tears from the fans. This was what he did with Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And it is beautiful, and it is brilliant. And the day, within like a couple of months of the sale of Lucasfilm to Disney, it was canceled. It was just finishing its 5th season, And they had started a 6th season and had scripts for a 7th and 8th season of the show ready to close out all the storylines that they put in and close the gap between the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, with even a little bit of stuff taking place after Revenge of the Sith. All that stuff was basically shelved. And fans lost their damn minds. And for the past 4 years, there has been a Save the Clone Wars campaign to bring it back. And it worked. But here's where it gets interesting. The trailer that was shown is all pre-render stuff that they had started working on when it was canceled. So it's not even new stuff. It's not new animation. It's stuff that they had started working on. The voice actors have all said that they've only known that the Clone Wars was coming back within the past 2 or 3 months, aka around the time that Solo tanked. There are a lot of people who feel like this is a bone being thrown to the fans to shush them after the Solo debacle.
That is kind of fascinating, and could this be? I think you know me at this point that I'll grab onto any glimmer of hope I can. If I see something that's just a glimmer of things changing and for the better, I'll jump on board. Maybe someone over there at Lucasfilm / Disney / wherever. Maybe you're right. Maybe because again they've tanked so bad. And I didn't understand, quite frankly, when Disney bought it, and they kind of made that announcement that anything outside the main films is no longer canon. Nothing in the extended universe is valid anymore. And boy, was that kind of weird. I didn't understand why they did that, because I had a hard time believing they couldn't fit their stories within things that had happened in the extended universe. And I kind of just wrote it off as just utter laziness, that they didn't have anybody to really research all this sort of stuff, even though I'm sure people exist that could easily educate them. But they didn't feel like doing the homework, so they just said, never mind all that stuff, we're starting over. So that whatever they wrote was fine and didn't clash with anything in the extended universe. But yeah, I think you're probably correct. And we saw, by the way, didn't we see things in Solo that did jive with stuff that was going on in Clone Wars?
Yes, we did. The legs of Darth Maul, for example, is directly from the Clone Wars. So yes, it's canon.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess they're throwing a bone to the fans, saying, all right, guys, you win. Here you go. Here's this back, and we're going to play ball now. I hope that means that they're going to get their act together and stop giving us what they're giving us and try to give us something a little more akin to what the fans already like.
I'm excited, personally. So far, they've only confirmed that there's going to be 12 episodes. They're not going to be released anywhere but on Disney's new Netflix. This is the other thing that annoyed me. I'm excited. I'm happy. And honestly, dude, all the episodes are on Netflix. You have no flippin' excuse. Get on it.
Sorry about your window, but you're welcome for not getting robbed.
Oh, hey, what's up? I'm a superhero.
Okay, San Diego Comic-Con. Again, a barrage of new trailers. Let's kick it off. My friend, the Shazam trailer. Did I call it or did I call it?
Absolutely right. Yes, I agree with you. But yet, in a weird way, it kind of makes sense because you do have a kid in an adult's body. So
yeah,
maybe the tongue-in-cheekness of it is actually part of its appeal. Because I got to be honest with you, I like the trailer.
You know what? Oddly enough, I did too. I sat there watching it and I said, wow, boy, did I call this one. This is pretty much exactly what I had imagined. It's him running around. Look at me, I'm a grown-up. Look at me, I'm a superhero. Look at all the cool things I can do. It's just acting like a kid in a grown-up's body. And even as I'm watching it, saying, boy, did I call it, I still kind of found it charming, which shocked the hell out of me because I really thought this was going to be a train wreck, frankly. But it was oddly charming, and I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah, I agree with you. And first of all, yes, to give you your props, you absolutely 100% positively called this last week. Even as I was watching it, I even said out loud to Liam, it's like, holy smokes, Joe called this. And he's like, huh? It's like, you'll hear the episode. Don't worry about it. You could put that on Zachary Levi. I think that the casting of him as the adult personification of Shazam is what makes the difference. This is a comedic actor who was on the TV show Chuck for like 4 years. So he can play this type of part. This is like Zachary Levi could be DC's Chris Pratt.
Sure, maybe. You know what's funny? I don't know the actor too well, so I kept getting vibes of, and I'm going to forget his name, but the guy from the dentist from The Hangover.
Oh, shoot. I don't remember the actor's name, but I can see what you're talking about. No, actually, he was in the last 2 Thor movies. He was Fandral. He was the blonde-headed guy.
Okay.
So no, I could see where you're getting the vibes from. It's, it has Mark Strong playing the villain, as you saw quickly in the scene, and it was fun. It was a fun little thing to watch. I found myself more excited for it than I thought I was going to be.
Yeah. I agree, and one of the things I noticed about it was that it was also filmed in real places. You could definitely tell that this was filmed in and around Philadelphia and not on just nothing but green screen magical sets like the last few DC incarnations. So yeah, it really did kind of give you something to. And again, I don't know if. I mean, there is a part of me that would really love kind of a much more serious Shazam, not somber serious. But having said that, this does look like it could be some fun on its own.
My father was a lighthouse keeper. My mother was a queen. But life is a way of bringing people together.
We could unite our worlds one day.
Check it out. Arthur is talking to the fish.
On the other hand, let's talk about Aquaman. Let's talk about some of the things in it that I liked. I thought Black Manta looks freaking awesome.
Agreed.
I thought that the fact that it was colorful and bright was a nice welcome change of pace. I thought that the look for Atlantis was very well designed. I thought it looked really great. But as I'm watching this, the first thing that pops into my head is a pitch meeting that goes like this. Let's do Black Panther, but underwater.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does have that vibe to it. And, I just had a hard time getting into this trailer. Again, Shazam kind of snuck up on me, and it was cute and charming, and I was like, oh, I kind of like this. Then I watched Aquaman, and I'm like, wow, just more blah, and I don't know. Maybe they can do something with this. Maybe something will turn around. I remember, the girl with the red hair, I guess that's his wife, girlfriend.
Mira eventually becomes the Queen of Atlantis, yes.
Yeah, I could not get past that shocking pink red hair. And I know, and I said to myself, I said that's a very weird thing to get hung up on, given what this is. It's a superhero film, and I like the big colorful costumes and yada yada yada. But I just remember thinking, but I don't know, like that obvious sort of like natural hair can't be that color. If she's got red hair, great. I don't know, but I kept getting stuck on it. And my girlfriend sort of said the same thing too. So yeah, I don't know. It just looks kind of blah. And like the scene in the airplane when they jump out without the parachute.
Yeah,
I'm kind of looking at that going like, what does that have to do with Aquaman? It just seems so far removed. I mean, I know you have to do things other than just being underwater 100% of the time, but again, I'm like, what is this, Mission Impossible now? Like, what is that about? It just the tone just seems so strange to me. So I really have a hard time getting my head around it.
Yeah, not to mention that he does this like wahoo sound like. For a second there, it's like, is he trying to sound like Goofy when Goofy falls?
Seriously, right? Like, what is that about? Like, enough with the my man.
I was pleasantly surprised at how it looked visually. I was pleasantly surprised at the Black Manta's look. I was pleasantly surprised that they actually are going to cover his origin, where he is the child of a human and the Queen of Atlantis. I was pleased about that, but everything else about it just kind of feels very middling. The CGI is just over the top as usual, and it makes it hard to really get into it.
Yeah, and honestly, you know that scene in the aquarium. Oh, look, Arthur's talking to the fish. They start beating up on him, and then the shark, of course, starts to bash through the glass. Well, first of all, as soon as I saw that, like I think the next clip I saw had basically a little thing, a shot of that, and underneath it says, "This is why no aquarium anywhere has a great white shark in a tank." But again, I honestly, that just looked so CGI to me, and I kind of felt like it was, I don't know, it looked very fake. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, again, are we really expecting anything from this? I mean, it was the DC track record is so terrible, and this character was just so poorly executed. I think somebody might really love this and say, "Oh, this is cool, Aquaman." I ain't one of them, so again, this is not for me.
It's amazing to meet you. It is simply extraordinary.
My name is Dr. Ellie Staple, and I'm a psychiatrist. My work concerns a particular type of delusion of grandeur. I specialize in those individuals who believe they are superheroes.
Good for you.
I still can't believe this is actually happening. I even as I'm watching the trailer, I'm saying to myself, this can't be real. This is a fan thing, right? This is a fan trailer? No. 18, actually going to be 19 years, because I think Unbreakable came out in 2000, if I remember correctly. Unbreakable was the second movie by M. Night Shyamalan, the first being The Sixth Sense. This was his second movie, and it was very under the radar, and it came out at a time before the X-Men movie came out and comic book movies really started taking off. So much so that he was told he couldn't market the movie as a comic book movie, which weirdly I think worked for the movie. I think it made it a better movie for it.
Agreed.
Unbreakable was one of my favorite movies. It may be my favorite movie that M. Night Shyamalan ever did, because it truly loved, understood, and respected the comic book genre. And I loved it. It was a great flick, and it hinted at the possibility of a sequel, but we never got it. Now, fast forward, M. Night Shyamalan comes back into the quote-unquote horror genre with Split. Very seemingly innocuous movie that starred James McAvoy as a man with over 20 different personalities. And bless James McAvoy, half that movie is his acting, the way he so deftly moves through each of the characters. But there was a hint of a supernatural element to it as well. And when it ended at a diner with David Dunn commenting,
What was it?
Mr. Glass.
And here we are 3 years later, and we're finally getting a sequel. Joe, now that I have preambled longer than the gosh darn new trailer, what did you think of Glass?
It looks interesting. It looks competent. The visually, it looks very good. The idea is fascinating. And, it's funny. And when they did that crossover at the end of Split, I remember thinking, wow, that kind of is odd, because it's almost like cross-genre, because, basically it's almost like you're suggesting that the guy from Split is sort of a supernatural being in his own right, not just a Looney Tune. Which they kind of allude to in the film a little bit, but they never sort of cross that line. Whereas Unbreakable, they do suggest that there is kind of an elemental superhuman nature to the character of David Dunn. So yeah, I remember thinking, does this work? But I do sort of have faith that it can, and I'm just really hoping that the story matches the potential, because again, if this has a good story, it really does have some wicked potential, and I am pretty excited to see it. I was very impressed. Again, like you said, Unbreakable might be, if not his best, one of his best easily, and then Split totally seemed like a return to force. So yeah, it would kind of be like a real coup for M. Night Shyamalan to be really back on top if he can pull this off. Yeah, I really do think it's really got some great potential, and I hope it lives up to the hype.
I agree completely. I found myself very hyped by this. I thought the trailer was interesting. It didn't give a lot away, which I appreciated. It showed some things, it tantalized, it teased, but it didn't reveal a lot. You get the idea that Mr. Glass and the Beast are going to hook up in some way. In what way? How is this going to work? Anything along those lines. Why are all of them in that insane asylum? What is going on with that? Lots of questions that need to be answered.
Yeah.
But again, I find myself compelled with it, and I'm curious to see where he's going to take it. So yeah, I'm in. I'm in so much that Joe and I, like, shortly after the thing released, were like, we need to move around the January schedule a little bit.
Yep.
The IMF is uniquely trained and highly motivated. Specialist without equal, immune to any countermeasures. But it is an agency of chaos. The time has come to dissolve the IMF. Now I want you to choose your next words very carefully. Where is Hunt?
Last I heard, he was tracking the syndicate.
Ethan and his team take on their most impossible mission yet, eradicating the syndicate. An international rogue organization as highly skilled as they are, committed to destroying the IMF. Written by Christopher McQuarrie, story by Christopher McQuarrie and Drew Pearce, based on the television series created by Bruce Geller, directed by Christopher McQuarrie, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation. Oh, they're just so much fun, aren't they?
Yeah, another great opening stunt that, again, had everybody going, yes, Tom Cruise really did that.
And yes, Tom Cruise is flippin' insane. Let's hang him out the side of an airplane. What the hey? Funny story, that particular style of airplane never really made it into production. They only made like 50 of them, and like some of them crashed.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So that's it. That's even kind of more funny. But that aside, yeah, what a tremendous opening scene. Outstanding opening scene. Honestly, as exciting as that opening scene, I think the thing that I enjoyed almost more than that had nothing to do with stunts. I loved when he went to the record store and they did the very Cold War era spy thing, and he's listening to the record and, nope, it's the syndicate talking to you. I kind of like that. Here we are. This is like the 5th freaking Mission Impossible movie, and that's the first time they pulled that trick.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, that was very good. I like that. And talk about being up Schitt's Creek.
Everything about that was just damn cool. And here's another funny story. You know the guy, Lane?
Yeah.
Solomon Lane? You know he's in Fallout, right?
Yes. And you know what? It was funny. When I rewatched this film, I went, wait a second, that's the guy, from the trailers from the new one. So, yeah, that's why, it's kind of funny. I mean, we've been sort of alluding to it before. But yeah, 4, 5, and into 6 does sort of seem to create kind of a loose trilogy.
It does indeed. I personally think.
I mean, it's interesting that, again, they ended the 4th one by saying, this group, the Syndicate, like almost in the closing credits, this group, the Syndicate, you have to go after them. And then they open 5 very deep into tracking down the Syndicate. So, yeah, I kind of find it pretty fascinating that, again, 4, 5, 6 does work pretty well as a... I haven't seen 6 yet, but seems to work pretty well as a trilogy.
We'll know soon enough, because we are going to be reviewing it next week, ladies and gentlemen, in case we haven't mentioned that like 16 times in the past couple of weeks.
I am very excited for this film.
Yeah, honestly, rewatching this again definitely got me even more excited for the movie than I thought I was going to be. You have some very interesting characters. This movie introduces us to... the character played by Rebecca Ferguson, Ilsa Faust.
Yeah.
An extremely interesting character. Who
and I think she's in the next one, too, by the way.
Yes, she is. In the trailer, she's the one on the motorcycle taking shots at him in the BMW. Because, of course, they're driving a BMW. Supposedly, Tom Cruise actually did most of the driving for that chase.
Is that right?
It wouldn't surprise me. He's a freaking nut.
He is. And I don't know how much of the bike chase he's doing, but it looks like it's him for a lot of those shots.
The basic story is he's been investigating the syndicate for the past couple of years. And in this current mission, they managed to take out some VX gas before it gets taken out. But in the meantime, back in Washington, we have Alec Baldwin, the head of the CIA, the Hunley character, basically having a political sword fight with Jeremy Renner, playing William Brandt again, trying to figure out just who the heck the IMF is accountable to. And giving that wonderful line that you repeated over and over again, I can neither confirm or deny it without approval of the secretary.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The secretary who was killed in the last one, so that put Brandt right in the hot seat. I thought that was kind of clever.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, by the end of it, of course, we know that good old Alec Baldwin is now the secretary.
Yeah, that was a kind of a nice twist. I like that.
Yep. Honestly, there was a lot to like about this movie. It really... every time I go into a Mission Impossible movie, I think I know what I'm going to get into. And every single time, since at least from the third one up, I've managed to be pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised, not just by the stunt work. The stunt work, as always, is just on top. The action is extremely well directed. The one thing you're not going to walk away from a Mission Impossible movie is saying, well, the stunts were kind of crap. No, that's never happened in a single Mission Impossible movie, save for the first one when he flung himself from the helicopter onto the moving bullet train. But from the second one up, the stunts have always been on point, and this action has always been enjoyable.
Agreed.
So what we have to look at here now is the story itself. Now, the story is okay. It's not the greatest story, because one of the things I was never clear on, I didn't understand why Lane insisted on keeping him alive in that beginning scene. Why didn't he just kill him off? What information did he possibly have? But then as the movie goes along, it seems that basically this is a whole mind F. The whole thing is to try to get Ethan to help him, to help Ilsa get information inside the giant toilet bowl that will release the funds that have been on hold, 2 billion sterling, that have been on hold for his group, the Syndicate. Now, I like that. I thought that was an interesting idea for a plot. The idea that basically he's been setting up the Syndicate in case of an emergency, and now he kind of wants to just do whatever the heck he wants, so he wants his money released so he can do whatever the heck he wants. As motivations go, it's only slightly better than the guy from... It's a little more compelling than the first one, but I also found him to be a relatively compelling villain. I thought that he was very well played. I felt his Heavy didn't get a lot of time. I felt that the Ilsa character was also a fascinating one, and I loved that basically there were twists that were happening in the background with the characters that even they weren't quite aware of it and everything like that. I love that. I love that she went back to frickin' Lane with the disc, with the USB stick, thinking, okay, this will be my way back in, and it's like, oh, no, her handler erased the disc. Screw you, you're done.
Yeah, I did too, and honestly, there was moments where I was starting to feel like, why does he keep trusting this girl? Because she keeps, kind of double crossing him. However, it was very well written to where you knew exactly why this was happening. Mm-hmm. So again, I really did. I liked it. I thought every twist sort of made perfect sense. It's funny. Sometimes I look back on this one, Rogue Nation and Ghost Protocol, and I have moments where I forget what thing happened in each film, because they both sort of one goes so smoothly right into the next one. And, the quality and the story beats, they all work really well together. So it really does sort of form like a big, like I said, what I think is going to be a pretty perfect trilogy if my predictions are correct. But
fingers crossed, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I really thought all of it worked, and I knew I was going to be doing a lot of gushing this week too, just like last week. So yeah, and I love the whole opera scene was awesome.
Amazing, beautifully staged. You knew exactly everything that was going on. So well directed. You know, I loved that moment, and I love that you didn't like have voices or anything like that. All you had was the opera music, and there's the one guy in the control room, and there's Ilsa in the tower,
yes.
And he's got the gun with the one bullet, and which I even loved how they established that it only held one bullet at a time without like spelling it out.
Yeah.
Just so wonderfully put together. That might be my favorite scene in that entire movie, next to my For Your Consideration.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought that whole thing was staged really well. You know, it's funny how every film it's starting to get like a Bond trope, sort of, where every one of these films now has like one really sexy lady in a very sexy dress at least once. You know, right. So I thought when you see her in the dress, you're like, oh, there it is. But yeah, boy does that work really well. I mean, the shot of her with the leg up, taking the shot at the guy in the booth, what a great shot. I mean, that was so really good. And I mean, again, the instruments with the guns inside. I mean, that's very cool stuff.
You called it last week when you said the Mission Impossible movies are doing Bond better than Bond.
Yes.
Because as I'm watching it, it's like there's the exotic locations, there's the tech, there's the car chases, there's the the fights, the hand to hand, and so on and so forth. There's the sexy lady. All the Bond elements are there. These movies have like surpassed Bond, and that's almost sad. You would think the Bond movies would have evolved better, but I guess there are some things that just I don't know what to say about that.
It pains me to agree with you, but yes, I completely agree that the Bond films have kind of rested on their laurels, and the creative minds behind it are getting a little old, and there needs to be some fresh blood. Yeah, these Mission Impossibles are really, as far as I'm concerned, are really giving you top-notch quality films. And again, this kind of, and the only thing I can kind of compare it to in this respect is the Marvel films, where, I mean, honestly, I'm going into part 6 without a doubt in my mind that I'm going to be very pleasantly surprised and very happy with the product. These films have been very consistent, and I said it last week. They get better and better over time, as opposed to, things that slowly slack off.
Yeah. It's evident. It's evident that I guess there's a passion to it. It's obvious that McQuarrie understands this. I mean, he even makes callbacks to the first movie when he calls in after he escapes. After Ilsa helps him escapes, he calls himself Bravo Echo 11. That was his ID when he called in the first movie.
Nice.
All little callbacks to that. The only thing that didn't show up in this movie from any of the previous movies is his wife, and. Which kind of led me to believe that, are they trying to maybe say that, like, Hunt and Ilsa are going to have a romance? But no, they didn't. And I like that. Again, you think, the pretty lady and, the good-looking leading man, of course they're going to get together. But no, all business.
Yeah.
Gotta love the Hunt character for the all business.
I completely agree, yeah. And I honestly, I felt like if they even bothered with the wife story again, I would have been like, guys, come on, we closed that pretty well with the last one. I think we can leave that alone. So yeah, I completely agree with you. The tension was kind of just right. Again, the tension really came more in terms of, like, you didn't know who she was or what she was all about. So yeah.
Even down to the coloring of her dress. Now, normally you get the hot woman in the movie, they usually put her in a red dress. And in this movie, she shows up in yellow, a very neutral color. If you think of like a stoplight as you have red for danger, green for go, but she's yellow, so she's somewhere in the middle. I liked that. I like that little call to that.
Agreed.
I thought that was a brilliant way to really, truly give you an idea about the character. The thing that I'm loving about it is the subtlety. They don't really spell a lot out to you. They'll spell some of the plot out to you, but the characterizations and stuff like that are all based on the people doing nuance more than words. And it shocks me to say that a Mission Impossible movie is the one that's doing this, and other movies just like sit there and explain, he's mad because so and so and Whereas in this movie, it's like you're watching the Ilsa character get pulled in like 5 different directions, and you kind of feel like you know her motivations.
Yeah.
She, I'm a spy. This is my job. This is what I'm doing. She's scared, but she's trying to keep it together. I'm going to give credit to the actress. I'm going to give credit to Macquarie's screenplay. It's nice to have fleshed out characters. When people talk about diversity in movies and wanting to make sure that they have a strong female lead, here's an example right here.
Yeah, agreed.
You have a great character, an excellent actress doing a hell of a job who, the woman's about as tall as Tom Cruise, and I don't know if I met her in real life if I would say, well, I think she could kick it. But gosh darn it, when she did kick butt, I was like, yep, I believe it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The entire time. This is a female character you want, okay? This is what it's supposed to be about. Not they're great just because they're great. She shows it, she earns it as the movie goes across.
Completely agree. Another great scene of them kind of going over the plot and Benji going like, oh yeah, no problem, he can do it. And he's like, what? They talk about how long he's got to hold his breath underwater. It was, again, the last one was great because they did something similar. He was like, we got to go in from the outside. He's like, He's like, I'm on the computer. This was very similar. I like that. He's like, oh yeah, so what? He's just got to hold his breath for what, 3 minutes? No problem. And Tom Cruise was like, really?
And he was so excited to wear a mask. I was so disappointed that they couldn't use that.
They did that again, didn't they?
Yeah, no. That's frickin' Simon Pegg for you. The man is infectious. So, and why he was the one that got kidnapped during the big scene, because everybody loves him.
Right. Good point there.
Benji. Ethan, where are you?
The Syndicate is real. A rogue nation trained to do what we do.
An anti-IMF.
They're coming after us with everything they've got.
You ready?
So the underwater scene. Well, first of all, I thought another break into another crazy Looney Tunes, hard to break into place was okay. It wasn't great. It
was not my favorite scene.
Yeah, and I like the idea. Again, they're trying to do new things. They're trying to keep it fresh and give you something new every time. Right. Having said that, I kind of feel like they are kind of running out of plausible things. I think because again, when they got to the part where it actually scans your gait, your walking style, and if you, I was like, really? Like you better not twist an ankle on the way to work that day, or else you're gonna get fried and taken away. I kind of thought that was just okay. And again, his whole mission is to put the thing in place so that when he walks through, it'll recognize his walk. So did he have to practice walking beforehand and they'll record it? And that was a little bit of a weird stretch. Having said that, I did think the underwater thing was pretty good, but I also sort of felt like, too, the photography, the camera work is getting too good. That now when I almost felt like as they're sort of following him around, it was getting almost science fiction-y in a way.
It lost something. This is the new trilogy's jumping on the back of the bullet train moment, as far as I'm concerned. It's way too. The thing that works when you do the impossible stuff in this thing is that at least it looks real. Even if you're using trickery to do it. Because, of course, it's a movie. It's always going to be trickery. You threw in an element that made it... Oh, God, I hate to say it, but you made it too impossible.
This mission, it just got a hell of a lot more impossibler.
I didn't believe that scene at all. I didn't feel any sense of danger. I didn't feel any excitement about it either. I wasn't worried about Benji for a second because, that's another trope that I'm not a big fan of, okay? We got to go in, we're going to change the data so that your access and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Why do they have to do it at the same time? Why can't he put it in there like the day before and then Benji could just, leisurely just stroll in? Why did it have to be that at the exact same time?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I kind of didn't really get that myself, right? He's like, why can't you go in first, put the thing in, you get out and say, okay, Benji, now you can go in and do your thing. Because they would find it, maybe. I mean, I guess that's what they want us to understand.
How would they find it? He almost drowned putting it in.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they do like a routine check to make sure nothing has changed and something has changed. Or, who knows? But yeah, I agree with you. That was a little. Again, they're a little strange and.
Yeah, the whole. Sometimes the technology just goes beyond. I understand what they're trying. Oh, it's a liquid cooled, CPU. It's like, oh, really? That's a liquid cooled CPU. That's charming. That's nice.
Yeah, like is that a thing?
Well, liquid cooling a CPU is absolutely positively a thing, and I've seen some pretty intense looking stuff. But it's not water. It's a special liquid. It's more viscous. And, of course it absorbs, whatever, it's just, somebody read a bunch of buzzwords and made it part of the scene.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite scene, but the good news is that even that really, once that scene was over with, it got kind of back on track with everything, and I was kind of like already forgetting about it. I don't know if they thought that was supposed to be their big, like breaking into the CIA from the beginning, which they alluded to at one point. It just, I was glad it was over, and I'm glad that they finally moved on to the bigger, better thing, which was actually moving the plot forward. Actually, which led to that amazing, amazing motorcycle chase.
Yeah, it did. And I do like, well, first of all, I feel like defibrillators in movies now can do anything.
Of course.
You could be dead for 20 minutes. If they hit you with a defibrillator, you're coming back.
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin. The timing of all that was kind of odd. How the hell long was he sucking down water before she came? How the hell long did he have water in his lungs before she defibrillated him back to life? Come on.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure how that works. I mean, he seemed to hold his breath until he passed out. I don't know. Can you pass out underwater and not swallow water? I don't know and don't think so. So
one of the last things you do, I read about this a long time ago, which is kind of horrifying to think about, but one of the last things you do when you're underwater and you're holding your breath, you involuntarily breathe.
Right, yeah. I mean, right, like, your body is gasping, right. Your unconscious body is gasping for air. So and it'll try, right? I mean, that makes perfect sense.
So yeah, no, that whole scene was kind of dicey, but okay. He got in, he got the data, and big chase. Yeah.
Chase scene's great, and I kind of did sort of like the added, he's kind of I thought it was funny, and they show it in the trailer all the time when they run out to the car. First he jumps over the car and he just falls.
Whoa. Are you okay to drive? I mean, a minute ago you were dead. What are you talking about? This is not going to end well.
What are you talking about? Like he can't remember even what just happened? I thought that was kind of funny, and I kind of thought him being so spaced out it did sort of add a little something. And I guess he kind of, as it progresses, he kind of snaps back. But the car chase was awesome.
I found myself very enthralled by that entire chase. First, with the car running into Luther and Brandt and everything as they're going around the corner. I thought that was a nice little tension breaker.
Agreed.
That part where they're trying to catch up on him and he spins the car and knocks the two guys off the bikes.
Yes.
That was freaking outstanding.
Agreed.
The motorcycle chase where he knocks the guy into the... Oh, God. Just really, really good. I don't know how much CGI they used and how much practical, but it's a testament to this film that I couldn't tell what was CGI and what was practical. And it looked like they were going at some really seriously breakneck speeds.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there's some of the shots where the guy would just sort of look away for a second, and then he looks up and he's crashing. That was, I mean, oh my God, really good stuff. I mean, seriously. And this was coming out the same year. We keep sort of doing the Bond comparisons. This came out the same year as Spectre, which had one of the most boring car chases ever. Like to the point where I'm like, does that even qualify as a car chase? They're just driving around, really. Nothing's happening. So, yeah, I mean, again, this series is really kind of showing them what's what. They
even borrowed from them a little bit, the way that the entire chase ended. It was almost straight out of Casino Royale.
There you go. Right. Good point.
You know? Yeah, she stops the chase by just kind of walking out and hoping to God that Hunt is enough of a human being that he won't kill her, and sure enough, he didn't.
Yeah, very
almost
true.
Killed himself in the process. But yes, I thought that was a neat little way to end the chase, because I was wondering to myself, well, how the heck is he going to get it? Because he can't get it back from her. So that led us into the big final scene, the big final, gotcha, where they have to get the retinal scan and a quote from Kipling from the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't know where they were going to go with it, but I kind of liked where they did the thing where they made it seem like Brandt was screwing over Hunt.
Absolutely, yes. That was very well done. They really did kind of throw the audience for a loop. You did not, didn't know where that was going. Could have even gone. I mean, even if you're sort of a cynic and you go, "Oh, no, I know what this is. They're going to twist this around," and he wasn't really. You know what? But they could have done it another way, where Brandt really was a turncoat, but Ethan sort of was one up on him in that respect too. So there was different ways that could have gone. So
yeah.
I like what they did there, and through the whole thing with Alec Baldwin and the Prime Minister and the other guy, very well done. I loved the reveal. It was Ethan all along. Great, good stuff. And I was almost at a point where I said to myself, how are they going to do that? But they found a way to do it. And I found it to be very believable.
I found that part to be believable. I found the part where he basically one-upped the guy by memorizing all the accounts was another great little moment.
Yes.
And very in line with what the character has demonstrated in the past that he can do. Like, there's a lot of love, not only for the original series, but for this entire film series on display throughout this movie. It doesn't take the characters for granted. It respects the characters. It respects the storyline. And when the big ending happened, it was satisfying that he didn't kill the bad guy. Is this like the first time the bad guy hasn't been killed?
You know what? I think you're right. Yeah. I think, as far as I can recall,
Ilsa got to take out the henchman in a great fight scene on her own.
Yep.
And in the end, he brought him in.
Yeah.
He brought him into justice. I even liked, my God, I mean, as cliche as it was, I even liked where he's in the giant bulletproof thing and he's taking shots and they just come out of the shadows to each side, each member of the IMF team. Cliche as hell, but gosh darn it, they earned it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. No, and there was actually, I love the foreshadowing too, because again, he had, the guy shot the girl in the record store while Ethan is sit there, helpless behind the glass. And I think that there was I can't remember now who said it, but there was some sort of reference, maybe about 2/3 of the way along, where somebody said, like, this is not going to end with me in a glass box or something or other. And then sure enough, that's exactly where he dumps the guy, in a big glass box where he's now the helpless rat, well, Ethan has the upper hand. Terrific. I mean, it was a very poetic, again, good foreshadowing. I thought that was really well done.
Christopher McQuarrie's first movie, he wrote the screenplay for The Usual Suspects.
Okay.
So he's definitely got the chops for stuff like that. Christopher McQuarrie, man, he has just been impressing the ever-living hell out of me lately. His first movie that he directed was called The Way of the Gun, which is a great flick if you haven't checked it out. He's now done two Mission Impossibles. He wrote the screenplay for Edge of Tomorrow, which, as far as I'm concerned, is an underrated movie that people need to see.
Big time.
I loved that movie much more than I could imagine. He directed the first Jack Reacher, and I mean, he hasn't really directed much. He directed, and honestly, him not directing the second Jack Reacher is probably why the second Jack Reacher was not as good as the first.
Yeah, the first one was a very good film. Very good movie, that first one.
Agreed. He's got a interesting amount of screenplays. He's written The Tourist, Jack Reacher, Jack the Giant Slayer. He wrote the screenplay for Edge of Tomorrow, Rogue Nation. He wrote The Mummy, but I'm going to think that's a right by committee situation. I'm not going to blame him on that one.
I would definitely agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. I can't blame him for that one. But it is kind of funny. I think the thing that I find most interesting is, like, he's now written 4 Tom Cruise movies. I get the feeling Tom Cruise really likes this guy.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. You know, I mentioned last week, I said I really do feel that Tom Cruise has a hand in the quality of his films. You know,
Oh,
and
100%.
I really think he takes a lot of it very seriously, especially the Mission Impossible series. So yeah, I wouldn't doubt that for a bit. I would be very surprised if he didn't have a hand in that.
No, for sure. The movie, in the end, is enjoyable. It's fun. It's exciting. It, twists your brain, which is still surprising to me that these movies, after all this time, have not fallen into cliche. And yet, they somehow still manage to move past. How does a movie evolve yet stay true to its roots? And these movies have been doing that. And Rogue Nation is just like the latest in a, holy smokes, I can't believe they pulled it off. Every single time now, I feel like every time I'm going to go, even when I go on Saturday to see Fallout, a part of me is going to be like, well, maybe this is the one where they slip up. And they're probably going to do it to me again. I was like, son of a bitch, how do they keep doing this?
Uh-huh. I completely agree. It's funny. I kind of feel like we do, like I feel like the last episode and this episode, kind of like how the two films kind of flow together. I feel like these two episodes are going to flow together, and I almost feel like, I wonder if we're even doing the film justice just by sort of gushing the way we are. I mean, we did kind of, call out things that we didn't think worked as well. I'm not saying we haven't been fair, but I can feel myself just sort of gushing about these films. But honestly, I can't help it. I mean, they're just that good. So yeah. There's not a whole lot I can really ding them for, criticize them for. I mean, I'm sure CinemaSins could have a field day with it and, poke holes at every tiny little thing. And if we wanted to do that, we probably could. But it's just not the point. I mean, they keep you, even things that don't make perfect sense, even things that might kind of just extend believability just a little bit, they do it well. They do it in a way that, they cover their tracks and they're well written. So it's tight, it's polished. So, I just think the whole thing works great. And like I said, I can't wait to be sitting here next week talking about the next one.
Oh, I hope we have as much fun with that one as we did this one. I really, really do.
I agree.
You want to bring down the syndicate? It's impossible.
All right, Joe. We're going to have to put a cork in this one.
Time to score
it. At least
it?
for this week. Time to score it, my man.
All right.
Let's do this.
Again, no surprise, I'm giving this one a 9. I think this one, like its predecessor, were spectacular. I find it very difficult to come up with anything that I don't like. So I frankly would give this sort of a high 9 even. I save my 10s for the Citizen Kanes of the film world. So yeah, this one gets a 9 and it's a high 9 because I think it's, again, they're out bonding Bond. Exciting locations, good characters, great action, sexy women, thrilling action. So, I'm comparing it to Marvel in the respect that these films really have elevated itself to a level of quality that now I've just sort of come to expect that. Again, I think they're stellar, and I really am going to struggle to find anything to pick on.
Well, I also gave it a 9, my man. There is not a lot about this movie that I could ding it for the silly, underwater scene and everything like that, but it's kind of a small ding. They managed to hold together plot. They managed to hold together character. They managed to do the action well. How much more can you ask for from a movie that's, supposed to be a vapid, brainless thing? It's supposed to be something that you just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah.
And how often do you have one where you can not only sit back and enjoy, but you can actually appreciate the artistry and the hard work that every single person in this movie does? I mean, that's Rebecca Ferguson going on the top of that guy's head and bringing him down. That's not a stunt woman. That was her. That was Tom Cruise on his motorcycle. We know it was Tom Cruise pulling himself out of the plane. And hey, you know what else I found out? I found out that during the car chase, when Tom Cruise was driving, guess who was in the passenger seat? Mr. Simon Pegg.
Yeah, I tell you, I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome.
It is astounding to me that these movies have managed to go from a moderate, and it was a moderate beginning, it was just an okay beginning, to almost being the crown jewel of the action spy genre, as far as I'm concerned, in the 21st century. But who asked you, Joe?
It's funny. Do I go with the kind of easy, cheap shot, or do I? Part of me wants to sort of ding it for the underwater scene for, again, the kind of, like I said, the camera work is good, but it's almost too good, and it kind of takes you out of that moment. Which is exactly why we love scenes like when he's hanging off the plane, where it just looks like the camera is stuck on the wing of the plane, and that's the only way you're going to get that shot. If there was like an imaginary camera floating around him as that was happening, it would totally take you out of it. But you know what? Maybe I'll just let that slide, and I'll go with the cheap and easy, and I'll just say, you know what? More BMWs, more airbags.
I think you'll be disappointed if the sixth one doesn't have an airbag scene with the BMWs.
There you go.
I was kind of with you on the underwater heist. That was originally going to be my Who Asked You, but I found something else, and this one just kind of grated me. Hunt, I need Hunt alive. And then he starts shooting at him.
Yes. Very true.
Okay? It's like, and I know, and part of me is like, well, maybe he wasn't aiming to kill. It's like, you know what? It doesn't matter. He knows that Hunt is a spy, and he's going to try to get away. If you shoot to wound, there is a good possibility you might accidentally kill when he tries to avoid the shot.
Yeah.
So just taking those shots at him was not a good idea, since he's got 2.4 billion sterling in his head.
Yeah. Yeah, I did think of that, and I have heard that criticism, and I'm kind of on the fence with it, because on one hand, if he kills him, he loses the information. On the other hand, though, I did sort of read that scene as Hunt is already escaping. He's already kind of pulled a fast one. Benji got away, and, instead of letting them take him in, he's running, and basically, I think he's shooting just sort of knowing that all is already lost. He's already lost, and he's not going to let Hunt get away. I mean, again, because if he does, again, he's like the last guy chasing him around. He's got a gun. He doesn't have a zapper. He doesn't have a big net he can throw on him. So I guess at that point, he's just fed up and angry, and he's going to shoot this guy who basically just destroyed his plan.
And I can see that, but I don't feel like they earned that.
Yeah.
I feel I can understand that. That is actually the best explanation that I've heard, but it's still unearned. It came across as, now the villain's just being stupid for no other reason. I kind of feel like if they could have just had something along the lines of where he realized that the jig was up, just something along the lines, I would have even taken a voiceover of nothing left to lose now, and then just start shooting at him. I would have even accepted that.
Yeah. I hear you. It's very valid. It's a very valid criticism. Yeah, they really don't really tie that together too tight.
No, not very tight at all. Very, very loose. But what about for your consideration, sir?
Again, I find that there's so many good things about this film. I have a hard time sort of picking one thing just to shine a spotlight on it. I'm going to go with that motorcycle chase, though. I thought that was really spectacular. I thought that was, even as good as the car chase is, they one-up themselves again with that super high-speed motorcycle chase. And again, it's like you see these guys just blink for a second and boom, I really thought that was well done.
Damn it, Joe. I read one time, I haven't experienced this personally, that women, after a while, when they become friends, long enough, that eventually their periods, their menstruations, tend to match up. They don't plan it, it just happens. Get out of my head. That's exactly what I put down for mine.
There you go. Well, I mean, how could you not? It's a spectacular scene. It's got to be the high point, and it's shot so well too. I mean, the colors are bright. I mean, they're in the bright sun. The colors are bright and vibrant. The geography is spectacular. I mean, so it's just, everything about it just works so well. And again, man, boy, do I hate saying this, but again, Spectre is out the same year and gave us the most boring car chase ever. And to compare that with this motorcycle chase, it's like, man, I mean, it's just two different animals.
No, you can't compare the two. No. This is a series that has its finger on the pulse on exactly how to do stunt driving, stunts in general. I mean, we gave the last episode. I gave it to the stunt team. You gave it to Tom Cruise for the very same reason. This is a series that lives by the organic nature of how they do their writing and their stunts. And yeah, and in this one, absolutely, I was riveted. Even this is my second time seeing the movie, still riveted watching that motorcycle chase scene. Truly, when you can feel the velocity of their speed, that's the sign of a good goddamn chase scene.
Agreed.
As far as I'm concerned,
I completely agree. I mean, it just felt, like you said, so real, so visceral. That's one of those when you're sitting in the theater, you like your head just sort of like, ducks and, whoa.
I imagine that's how people felt the first time they saw that. Supposedly one of the first movies was a camera was mounted as a train was coming directly at it, and supposedly people jumped out of the way.
Yeah,
totally. Like one of the first movies. That's kind of like what you feel like when you're watching these damn movies.
Totally.
That's how well done they are.
Absolutely.
Ethan? Yeah, I'm trying. Oh my God!
The other door! But next week we close the chapter on the current crop of Mission Impossible movies.
Wow, this year is really moving fast. I can't believe it. I mean, we did the first half of the Mission Impossible series early on, back in the late winter, early spring, and we're already finishing it out. I think that's incredible.
We are in August. We are 8 months into this new year. We're already talking about what we're doing next year, ladies and gentlemen. Huh. This is how we do it for you people. And that's right. So we will be back next week. Probably have broken up some of these. We spent an hour, ladies and gentlemen, talking about movie trailers and movie news. I'm not 100% sure they're all going to make it into this week, but a lot of them will make it into next week. And there's a small possibility that some of them might make it into the week after that. We don't know. We're going to see.
Yeah. This was a hell of a show. And yeah, this is going to be a little tricky to put this one together in the editing room, but it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. We'll figure it out somehow. One of us will, at least. All right. So, Joe, man. Gosh, I don't know about you, but I'm tired.
I am tired. This was a big one. But we will do it again next week.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.